So I've heard pastors all over America now guilting men for simply appreciating a beautiful woman. They've displayed disgust, designating it as a sin for anyone that merely regards a woman as desirable. They are calling this adultery based on the single statement Jesus made. You heard it was said, do not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. That's Matthew 5, 27, 28. Now there's three major problems with this, focusing on this passage. Used like this, it serves to redefine the meaning of adultery completely. Let's start with the word lust. It simply means to desire, to long for. The word lust is interchangeable with the word desire. It's translated from the Greek word epithumio. It's used 15 other times in the New Testament and has nothing to do with sin. It's a neutral word. Let me give you an example of how it's used in other places in the New Testament. In Luke 22:15, Jesus said, I have eagerly desired to eat the Passover with you before I suffer. This word desired here is again that word epithumio, the identical word translated as lust. Was it a sin for Jesus to have desired or lusted after eating the Passover with his disciples? Of course not. Let that sink in for a moment. Okay, so what is adultery then? Is it defined for the first time by Jesus here in Matthew? No, it's not. It's part of the Ten Commandments, in fact. Thou shalt not commit adultery. The Hebrew word for adultery is na'ef, and defined in the Hebrew in the context of a man always with another man's wife. You can look these things up for yourself in Strong's Concordance. To make it crystal clear, Jesus was not intensifying the law in Matthew, nor is he saying anything new. He is reinforcing what the Jews overlooked in the Ten Commandments. Following thou shalt not commit adultery, God reinforces that we are told not to desire anything that belongs to our neighbor, his wife, his house, his servants, or anything that belongs to his neighbor. Going strictly by the Bible, adultery is the breaking up of a marriage, taking something that does not belong to you. We see this being reinforced by Jesus in Matthew 19:9. He says, and I say to you, whoever divorces his wife except for immorality and marries another commits adultery. Adultery is the breaking of the bond, or in other words, breaking up of a covenant. But you say, but Jesus said anyone that looks upon a woman. He didn't say wife. Well, again, the word for woman here in the Greek is gune, meaning wife. Gune is used 41 times in the New Testament as wife. It would have been redundant for Jesus to say, anyone who looks on a man's wife to desire her serves to break up the wife from her husband. It would be redundant to state it that way. So, those surrounding Jesus didn't have to have adultery explained to them. They already knew the scriptures very well. They already knew exactly that it meant wife. It was like if I stated today, the gunman shot into the innocent crowd. We don't need to identify him as a criminal. We already know that he is a criminal based on his actions. So you see, on all 3 points, knowing what you know now, there's no reason to feel guilty for seeing a beautiful woman and wanting to take her as your own. There's no reason to regard a married woman as off limits in looking at her as beautiful if you have no intention to break up her marriage and take her as your own, like King David did. Remember, in 1 Timothy 4:1 it states, but the Spirit explicitly says in later times, some will fall away from the faith, paying attention to deceitful spirits and teaching of demons. If you are being enslaved by false guilt, don't let it stand. It's not from God. Seek the truth, not just absorb anything that's said from the pulpit. Test the spirits to see if they are from God. We are living in a time with easy access to research tools in book form and online, such as Strong's Concordance and interlinear Bibles, where you can get to the truth so you're not brought back into slavery. Thank you for watching, and I hope you'll check out some of the other videos for more truth.